Hello, my name is Natalie Aguirre, and this is my History 1010 final exam. So the first learning goal we covered in the Refugees and Global Migration article. Now, this article talks about the fact that the number of international migrants has increased 49% from the year 2000 to the year 2017. Now, the people coming here are divided into two groups. Some people are coming here meaning the United States because they're forced to, and some are coming here voluntarily. Unfortunately, some people, the ones who are forced, they're typically slaves or they're victims of sex trafficking and natural disasters. But some people are just coming here simply seeking a better life for their families, for themselves, for their children, and so on. Another topic that pertains to this learning goal is the pro-life versus pro-choice argument. This is still very much a hot topic that is very divided, and a lot of people have different viewpoints on this, whether their viewpoint is ethical, religious, or scientific. Some people believe, those who are pro-life, that a life is a life, whether it's 3 weeks old or 7 months old, it doesn't matter. But some people believe that, in cases of rape or incest, or just the simple fact that a woman has the right to her own body and that she should be able to do with it what she will, but then some people believe, well, it's not her body, it's the baby, it's someone else's body. So it's a touchy subject that definitely has a great divide between it, and I think it always will. So the second learning goal was seen in two different Great Decisions articles, the first of which being the State of the State Department and American Diplomacy. Now, this article primarily spoke upon Donald Trump's treatment of the U.S. State Department and that it is in a serious crisis due to a lot of his decisions. He has sought to cut the budget of the department by 1/3. He's failed to promote senior officers, and he's left many positions unfilled because he's making the military his number one priority, so he's essentially sidelining the State Department. Now, he did propose to do a 30% budget cut, but thankfully it was not enacted. But in general, this article talks about how he has severed many ties with countries that had always been allies of the United States since World War II. He's destroyed the trade system, changed immigration policies, and supported the populism of Europe. Now, the other article, Decoding U.S.-China Trade, basically talks about how China is having some serious economic problems because the central bank is continually printing money and their currency system is closed and it's not freely exchanged. And so China artificially sets consumer prices, and so this money that they continue to keep printing, it has nowhere to go. So it just creates these asset bubbles in real estate and manufacturing. And so a lot of people, have the misconception that China is going to surpass the United States. But in reality, China's economy is not growing and the United States is getting wealthier. It also talks about how China, when they used to have the one-child policy in force, so now there are a lot more elderly people working, which has affected the economic growth of the country. But the United States has a much younger population, and they have a lot of influx of immigrants, and so that has lent to a lot of economic prosperity. Also, China is one of the world's most populated cities. It states in the article that just breathing in the air is the equivalent to smoking 2 cigarette packs per day. And so, in turn, this has given a lot of people cancer, and a lot of the farmland in China and their water is extremely polluted. The third learning goal was seen in the Rise of Populism article. And this article pretty much states that the rise of populism is increasing dramatically amongst the citizens and leaders of the European Union. And a lot of this increased support is due to the fact that between the years 2015 and 16, over 2 million asylum seekers and migrants arrived to Europe illegally, which overwhelmed the system. And so these immigrants are not assimilating well into societies, and so it's creating a lot of problems for these countries. Now, a lot of European countries are against immigration, more specifically from Muslim countries. They want stricter migration and assimilation policies, and unfortunately, a lot of populist parties tend to create this very negative perception of immigrants, that they're all terrorists and criminals, and they only further instill fear and create more hostility towards immigrants. But there are people, I don't know how many, but there are some people who they're just generally concerned about the welfare of the country, and so they support populism, but it's not rooted in racism. And then secondly, a lot of this learning goal is seen through the election of Donald Trump and building the wall. Personally, I just noticed during the election what a divide this created amongst people, amongst friendships. I'm not one much to discuss politics with other people, and what I am, a Mexican woman. My father is a first generation, Mexican. My mother immigrated here from Argentina, and so obviously I'm completely against building the wall. I understand that there is a lot of illegal immigrants, and I don't blame people for being, a little bit frustrated, but just some of the negativity and hostility and, I guess, ignorance is extremely frustrating and disheartening. But again, I don't discuss it much with my friends, and I don't all have the same viewpoints, but I have seen, not as much now, but especially during the election, what a divide this created. It just created a big divide between people. And it's, like I said, it still does, not as much now. But I just wonder if this wall does get built, in turn, what will happen between people. Okay, so for learning goal 4, I haven't done a lot of community service recently. In high school, I did quite a bit. I went to parochial school 1st through 8th grade, so, we always were doing things as a school, volunteering at different organizations and stuff. We would, take half a day from school, and the whole, school or maybe a few grades would go and volunteer somewhere. And then in high school, I did a little bit through my youth group. We'd go to Gleaners, we'd do PB&J, we'd do things for the homeless. But as of late, being in college, I have not had the opportunity to do as much community service. I would like to eventually. I just haven't had the opportunity. And then for the final learning goal, I think that our role in society is very important, especially as young people. Unfortunately, not everyone, but I feel like a lot of people aren't informed about what's going on, or that, like I said, they have very ignorant opinions. If they just heard this and that, and they're not really thinking for themselves and, really getting involved in their communities and in the world around them. And I think it is so important that we do. And I think we've already seen an increase of that, because I remember in the 2016 election how not a lot of young people voted. But in the elections we had just last fall, I forget what they're called. I did vote. I just can't remember what they're called. Midterm elections, is that what they're called? I can't remember, but there was a huge increase in young people voting from the 2016 to that election that we just had in the fall of 2018. So I feel like people are starting to realize and recognize, that we do have a voice. And especially myself in this class definitely has opened my eyes that I do need to be more aware of what's going on in the world around me. I just, it's easy to get caught up, college students, they have all this homework, they have, jobs, families, whatnot, trying to think about their futures, but it's still important to be cognizant and to make sure that our voices are heard, because it is important.